This rogue build in Diablo 4 has high AoE damage, insane mobility, incredible clear speeds, and can easily avoid incoming damage in boss fights. This can be a tricky build to play, but once you get the flow of the abilities, perfecting this will make you feel like a true assassin, leaving all of your enemies vulnerable. Let's go over the skills that make this build work. First, let's start off with the left-click primary skill, Invigorating Strike. This build can be very energy-starved, and that may just be a symptom of a level cap of 25, but taking the energy regen modifier of this skill seemed necessary, as well as the node that makes targets vulnerable when being used on low energy. Up next, we have the core skill of the build, Twisting Blades. Taking the enhanced Twisting Blades node to upgrade the damage of the returning blades. And then for the second node, now I want to take a second here to talk about the second node of the Twisting Blades, as I feel this is really where the build is going to shine. Advanced Twisting Blades gives cooldown reduction for each enemy hit on the returning blade, up to a total of 3 seconds for each blade. With the amount of use this skill is going to get, your cooldowns will always be up, which makes this build engaging and fun to play. For the mobility tree, dash is a must. Having 2 charges baseline makes this the most valuable option in this tier. For the defensive skill, we'll be using Dark Shroud. These are the shadow orbs that spin around you and provide a huge flat damage reduction, as well as either extra movement speed or critical strike chance when active. We'll be using Shadow Imbuement, of course, for that crazy AoE damage, and the blended node gives another source of vulnerable for our enemies. As for the last skill, I'm using Shadow Clone. I usually don't like to take high cooldown skills in ARPGs, but with the crazy CD reduction of this build, this skill will be up and ready to use for most elites. So now I'm going to go over the gear really fast, highlighting a few of the legendaries that have been found in the beta that boost this specific build. First up, we have a crossbow, increasing damage of Shadow Imbuement to any vulnerable enemy. A buff to Dark Shroud, which turns this skill into yet another source of shadow damage. A ring, which boosts the return damage of Twisting Blades. And finally, the Shadow Slicer, which creates shadow clones when using dash. Now, I know this is only from items that go up to level 25, so I'm super excited to see how higher level legendaries can modify this build even further. Leading me to look over some aspects of items which I didn't find myself. Aspect of Unstable Imbuements. This would create another Shadow Explosion on use. And Vengeful Aspect, which boosts crit when making enemies vulnerable. And at the rate that we're applying vulnerable with this build, this is going to be a flat 9% crit boost. And speaking of applying vulnerable, just like Diablo 3, socketing emeralds into your weapons is going to provide a huge damage boost. Except this time, the crit damage is only going to happen to vulnerable enemies. So now for how this build is going to be played, we'll start off first with the Specialization, combo points. I vastly prefer this over Inner Sight, as using Twisted Blades at 3 combo points greatly increases the damage and provides a burst of movement speed. So for the rotation, build to 3 combo points, use Shadow Imbuement to buff your next 2 skills, Twisted Blades your main target, and reposition yourself with dash so that when your blades return to you, they hit the most enemies possible. This will be your bread and butter for clearing dungeons quickly, creating a massive chain reaction of shadow explosions in your wake. Now for elites and bosses who don't die to this basic combo, try this. Build 3 combo points, use your ultimate skill Shadow Clone, imbue Twisted Blades a couple times, and dash away. You'll have to get a feel for the 1.5 second delay on the impaled blades and how many you can get off before that dash. Well, that's it. I've loved playing this rogue build so far, and I'm super excited for what Diablo 4 has in the future. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and as always, love you.